that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
It is officially spooky season. And if you're watching this in November or December, then it's still spooky season, just FYI. To celebrate, I thought it'd be interesting for us to analyze some of the ugliest looks in the history of the franchise. Now listen, I know that there's probably gonna be a couple people that take this video the wrong way. And to that I say, in the same exact way that we celebrate show-stopping drag looks, we can also celebrate the opposite ones. The looks that had our hearts skipping a beat just for the sheer confusion of what we were seeing displayed on stage. As we enter this journey of the search for the ugliest looks in Drag Race Herstory, let us not take this as a moment of negativity, and instead a joyous acknowledgement of how sometimes bad drag can be iconic in its own way. But before we start, so lately I've been thinking about how much time we spend online and how important it is to actually own a little piece of it. Whether it's for your art, your work, your brand, or just a place to collect everything you're doing, having your own website changes the game. And that's why I'm happy to say that this video is sponsored by Squarespace, a great supporter of this channel. I've used Squarespace to build my own website, and the process genuinely surprised me with how straightforward it was. Their templates look clean and modern right off the gate. Editing them is honestly kind of fun. It's drag and drop and super visual. No coding, no weird backend setup, just you and your ideas coming to life. What's more is everything you need is built in, from custom domains and SEO tools to full-on e-commerce and payment. It's all there in one spot. You can even check your site traffic and sales with their analytics dashboard, which I love. It keeps things simple but smart. If you've been thinking about starting a site or even just centralizing everything you're already doing, now's a good time. You can start with a free trial by clicking the link in the description and getting an additional 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, plus supporting my channel in the process. Now, let's begin. To start off, as we go through this list, we will have 5 main categories to place them into. First is the golden boots section, which is for the looks that, while they are bad, are actually so bad that it's turned back around into being an iconic fashion moment. Then we have the there was a concept category. These are for the looks that were a complete miss, but you could sort of see where they were headed and that there was an actual concept to them. Up next is the just plain ugly category. These looks are just one-dimensionally not good, and there's not much to it than that. The next one is gonna be the girl really category, and that's gonna be for bad looks that sort of had no excuse to be bad. And finally, we have the scary and horrific category. This is for the looks that are beyond ugly to the point where it just leaves you horrified as to how anyone could have thought this was a good idea. As we go through our many options, let me know in the comments below which was the first Drag Race look that had your heart skipping a beat from how bad it was. And by the end of this video, I'll jot down the top 5 worst looks in the history of the franchise. Without further ado, first up, let's get into Dusty Ray Bottom's feather runway for season 10 episode 3. The day that she stepped foot onto the runway, she knew she was making history. The horrific placement of the feathers, the odd choice of wig, and overall, considering that everyone else that day had showcased stellar looks, it was hard not to notice how out of place it was for Dusty to come out wearing this. And I say that as someone that thought that most of what Dusty presented during her short run was actually pretty polished. Regardless, this has ended up as a cult classic within the fandom. So we have to place her into the golden boots category, because at this point, it's a timeless piece of queer history. Up next is Silky Nutmeg Ganache's face skinny runway for season 11. When it was announced that the category would be a look where your face is covered, it left queens with so many possibilities for what they'd be able to deliver. And somehow, Silky ended up zoning in on the concept of dressing up as a fly/roach that is spraying around insecticide. Regardless, it didn't make much sense then, and it still doesn't make much sense now. So we will be adding Silky's roach look to the just plain ugly category. Next up is Serena Chacha's soft sculpture couture for season 5 episode 2. For a long time, this was considered one of the worst contraptions in the history of the series, which is weird considering how fashion forward this diva truly was. Given that Serena went to art school, this was a commentary on society that not everyone understood. I do believe that while this look was once super iconic, I will sadly have to place it into the just plain ugly category, because as time went by, it sort of lost its X factor. On the other hand, Lala Ree's bag look for season 13, episode 5 completely obliterates most of the other looks on this list. The fact that she put this together, looked at herself in the mirror, and still thought that she might have a chance at surviving the critiques is something that boggles even the sharpest of minds. Personally, I remember feeling so grateful when I saw her step foot on the runway for the first time with this, because it made me realize that we finally had gotten a proper addition to the worst looks in the franchise, which ironically is a pretty high caliber of drag to be able to match. Regardless, obviously, this look will have to be placed into the golden boots category. Up next is Candy Muse's Alien Judy from season 13. I don't even remember what the prompt was for this runway, but I don't even think it matters. My favorite part about this creation is the fact that you literally can't miss it when you see it on the screen. A bright neon green jumpsuit, the no wig, and the body of an alien strapped to her is insane. I know that when it comes to Drag Race, there's a lot of outfits that you see and wonder how a queen could have thought this was a good idea once they put it on, but this one really trumps all of them. It's very few and far between that we encounter a monstrosity like this, yet it manages to be impressive in its own way. Therefore, we will be placing Candy's Alien Judy into the golden boots category. Up next is Shea Coulee's spikes on the runway from All Star 7. While you can understand where she was headed, it just looked super unfinished, like as if there was still 2 weeks left of the outfit getting its finishing details. That being said, as much as I was second guessing myself where to place this, we'll just put it into the ugly category for now. Now we have Kennedy Davenport's Death Becomes Her runway from season 7. I mean, is there even a question as to where this look should go? It's one of those images that are attached to the pillars of what makes this franchise so special, because even the moments that make you question reality end up having a sense of camp that just can't be replicated in heteronormative media. Naturally, we will plop Kennedy's Glamazon into the golden boots category. Next is Valentina's All Stars 4 Padded for the Gods. Yes, it's true that Valentina gave us the context that this look was supposed to represent what's under all the drag that queens usually put on themselves in order to give an illusion, yet the execution just wasn't it. The lack of a wig and overall messy presentation just resulted in a complete mess. Regardless, we will place her into the there was a concept category. Now we have Veronica Green's design look for Drag Race UK season 3. If you didn't know, Veronica was originally on Drag Race UK season 2, but after the season paused filming and 7 months later resumed the competition, Veronica unfortunately got COVID-19 and was unable to participate, subsequently earning herself an automatic invite to come back for season 3, which she did, but sadly ended up having one of the hardest runs to watch as a viewer. And that's coming from someone that was genuinely a fan of her and wanted to see her do well. Unfortunately, she just wasn't in the proper headspace to prepare, and it's something she's discussed in interviews she's done. All that being said, this is one of the most atrocious things on this entire list, and we'll have to add this one to the scary and horrific category. Moving on to Sasha Colby's Cannabis runway for season 15. It's pretty shocking when a pageant queen of such a high caliber that consistently delivers amazing looks ends up fumbling one. While the concept of this look is clear, the overall presentation just came across as super cheap, which normally wouldn't be an issue, but given that Sasha was known for big, extravagant, and expensive looking outfits, it feels like this came across more as an afterthought that didn't have much time between the design and creation of it. Nevertheless though, you can sort of see what she was going for, so we will place her into there was a concept category. Now we have Gottmik's season 13 design winning look. This one will probably be controversial because at the time that it aired, I'd say the fan base was pretty 50-50 in their reaction to the episode, praising Gottmik's ability to create such a fashion forward concept, and that she was in fact neck and neck with Utica's creation. Yet in the months that came after, people's senses caught up with them and realized that this had no business winning that episode and was far from an award-winning design. Regardless though, we will place it into the just plain ugly category. Now we have Ginger Minge's Future of Drag for All Stars 2 episode 3. If I recall correctly, this was the first outfit in the franchise to have components of it that had lights attached to it. Unfortunately, while she was ahead of her time for this, the execution just fell through completely. It's not just that the outfit in itself was ugly. It was also the added details like the weird wig or questionable makeup that pushed this over the edge. The funny part is how she later tried to justify that the look in itself would have been better received had the main stage lights been dimmed down in order to appreciate the outfit's own lights. But if anything, it probably would have just made it worse. For this reason, we will place this into the just plain ugly category. Now we have Ginger Minge's All-Stars 2 Episode 5's 2-in-1 look. By this point in the competition, Ginger had already been eliminated, but once all the eliminated queens got to come back for the Revenge of the Queens episode, we got to see what each one of them would have worn for the 2-in-1 look runway. And needless to say, Ginger was gonna wear a silver condom down the runway, resulting in one of the most insane things that I've ever seen a queen wear. Mind you, this was All-Stars, so the expectations were already through the roof. To this day, there hasn't been a moment where I see this look and don't get automatically entranced by it, just because of the many questions that spring up in my brain for who should be blamed for this. Subsequently, we will have to place this into the scary and horrific category. Up next is Ginger Minge's All-Star 6 Future of Drag Redemption. The whole point of this runway category was for queens to take an already existing bad look that they did on a previous season and reimagine it as something that's actually visually appealing. Ginger had a chance here to do something that would truly elevate what was known for a while as one of the worst looks in All-Stars Herstory. Unfortunately though, while she did reimagine it, she ended up walking down in another ugly outfit. The choice to wear these pants that had a bunch of ruffles on them didn't complement her short body. It was just a big miss, and considering that this was supposed to be a redemption, I have to place her into the girl really category. Moving on from this, we have Ginger Minge's All-Star 6 entrance look. This piece of art was meant to represent her season 7 tagline being that she was the glamour toad. Thus, she decided that in order to reintroduce herself to the modern franchise, she would wear this to honor her outdated quote. Yet it completely fell flat. All people were left with was a very bright colored getup that, even though it was clear had been intricately designed, all of the elements came together in a way that made it cohesive for all the wrong reasons. Despite this, the look managed to go down in infamy as an iconic fashion fail, so we will be placing this into the golden boots category. So now we have Rosé's yellow look for season 13. Horror is not even an appropriate word for me to use when describing what I feel as I stare at this image. Yes, I do know the movie that she's referring to with this, and it makes absolutely no difference to the feeling of dread that builds up inside my body. There is a question I'd like to ask, and it's that, do you think this outfit was truly yellow, or was it dark enough for it to be considered not yellow and instead a shade of orange? I ask this because Michelle went on to call Rosé out for not following the runway prompt. Anyways, given her jaw, I understand why on paper it made sense that she could do a good rendition of Jim Carrey's The Mask, but for now, we will have to place her into the scary and horrific category. Now we have Jujubee's UK vs. the World Season 1 Episode 3 runway. Off the bat, part of what made Juju's fourth attempt at Drag Race seem like such a letdown was how it came right after the airing of All Stars 5. In addition, where she had delivered such a high caliber of drag. Whether it was her short time to prepare or just the restrictions from the pandemic, there was still no excuse for her to walk out on the runway in a dry blue wig and what seemed like pool noodles strapped around her body. Now listen, I get that it was the pandemic and she was just coming out of a previous season, but she could have rejected UK vs. the World, or at the very least, wear literally anything else in her drag closet but this. Therefore, we will plop this into the girl really category. Monet Exchange Summer Runway for season 10. I'm not even going to say anything about this and just place it directly into the just plain ugly category. Candy Muse's Pocket Runway from season 13. There's so much that could be said about this look. My favorite story that came from this though was how the designer that made this actually felt bad about how negatively received the look was. But Candy still did a photo shoot for it where she was so upset with the situation that she didn't even bother to put it back on again. It's understandable that sometimes, even when you get something from a designer, that creativity can get the best of you. And you bring an idea that's so far outside of the box that it no longer even has a structure that makes sense. This look was a crazy mess. And it's why I think Lana Jarrett from season 17, who wore this for the ugliest dress ever runway, did have in fact the ugliest dress that night. Felt more so like intentionally ugly outfits rather than what in Lana's case was an outfit that at one point in time was created with the intention of being referred to as beautiful. Because of this, we're gonna have to place this into the scary and horrific category. Up next is Nina West's Design Challenge from All Stars 9 episode 2. Sometimes I forget that Nina at her core really is a comedy queen, to the point that when it comes to the runway, she truly is out of her element, especially when it came to this season. However, this was insane. I remember even thinking that there's no way she'd be able to do a worse job than in her season 11 design challenge, but she actually did. What's more is that if she had just done a better job with the painting and paired it with a good wig, it probably wouldn't have turned out looking as bad as it did here. That being said, we will be adding this into the scary and horrific category. Now we have Bob's roller skating robot from season 8 episode 3. As much as people hated this look, I actually remember not really minding it that much when I first saw it. I think it's because I liked Bob so much that it was hard for me not to just buy anything she was selling. As time went by though, and Bob's drag outside of the show kept improving, it did make it hard to look back at this look and not realize what many people saw back then. And it's that it truly was crazy that Bob just bought a cheap suit off Amazon and a look that was actually a backup version of what she was originally wanting to do, and not just be placed in the top for the episode, but went on to fully win the whole challenge. This level of iconicness deserves the highest of rewards, so we will place her into the golden boots category. Now we have Raja's All-Star 7 design challenge. Now listen, Raja is known as the original fashion queen of the series. This was further proven when she returned to All Winners and exceeded people's expectations with all the gag-worthy runways that we got to see from her in almost 10 years since her original season. Yet it's the second design challenge of the season where the queens had to create an outfit based on one of Rupaul's promo looks, and Raja got assigned the season 7 Rupaul, which is actually a pretty edgy look given Ru's standards. Regardless, Raja's interpretation sort of felt like a letdown. All of these random additions of fringe sticking out everywhere left us with a look that felt sort of messy, as if she should have done a lot more editing to it before deeming it complete. While I'd say there was sort of a concept to it, overall, it will be placed into the just plain ugly category, especially considering what we know she's capable of. Next up, we have Yvie Oddly's Vanna White look for All Star 7. Part of what makes Yvie's drag so unique is her out-of-the-box approaches when it comes to the garments she would put together. The first is how it doesn't match Vanna at all. The overall presentation of this looks like something that was made in a design challenge, and that's not the case at all. This was part of the looks that the queens brought from home. So not only did this look cheap, but there's nothing that ties in why Vanna would ever wear a dry orange wig with unhemmed cheap green fabric. Regardless, you could say that it's Vanna White if Vanna was Yvie Oddly. But even then, I'd have to disagree because we've seen Yvie in the past bring actual quality to her concepts. While this is a difficult decision, I'm gonna have to place her into the girl really category just for the fact that this was the first All Winners and the stakes were high in terms of runway packages. Okay, so here we have Rupaul's season 9 episode 2 runway. This was the first episode filmed right after Matthew Anderson, her makeup artist and hairstylist, was fired, prompting production to scramble in how they were going to get Ru ready for the show. I think that by this point, they had contacted Raven and Delta Work, but it wasn't actually the first episode they worked on her. So I'm like 80% sure that a random person from production must have done Ru's makeup here, and they probably just found an abandoned wig in the corner of a dusty closet, because Matthew Anderson apparently took most of his wigs with him once he was fired, leaving Ru with the scraps. Given that we know that Ru can serve puss under the right circumstances, the sheer essence that this image gives out forces me to place her into the scary and horrific category. Now let's move on to Elliot's Pink Flamingo from season 13. You know, after hearing the intention of the designer was to make it give an illusion of a standing pink flamingo, you can sort of understand where it was headed, but they fumbled the bag big time in the execution of it. So we'll place her into there was a concept category. Asia O'Hara's promo look for season 10. When I tell you that this wig is perhaps the worst thing in the history of the franchise, I am not exaggerating. Look, I love Asia just as much as the next person, and we do know that back then, the stylist on set would dramatically change what the queens were originally intending to wear for the promos. But once this was released, so many fans pointed out how out of place this wig looked when it came to Asia's promo. It's so outlandishly different that it ends up taking away from what should have been one of the most important looks of her career. Regardless, I'll have to add this wig alone into the scary and horrific category. Up next is Scarlet Envy's Prince Charming look from UK vs. the World Season 2. Scarlet, for the most part, has always been good at delivering polished showcases of drag, but when she misses the mark, she misses it completely. Given that this was her third time competing on the series, and the fact that she was one of the USA representatives on this international All-Stars, there is an expectation for mistakes like this not to happen. So this is a classic case of a runway that deserves to go into the girl really category. Now we have Mrs. Kasha Davis' design from All Stars 8 episode 3. Ignoring the fact that this is literally a huge chaotic assortment of every color on the rainbow, what perplexes me about Kasha is that even when she competed on season 7, she had been auditioning every single year until she got on. Subsequently, her invite to All Stars came after almost a decade of waiting, and when she finally got it, she really had no plan when it came to at least putting together something when it came to a sew-in/slash design challenge, which you know for a fact happens every season. I guess the main shocker here is not that she didn't learn to sew, because I mean that in itself requires a lot of time and energy. It's more so that it seems like she didn't even have a backup plan for what she'd do in case she had to face this challenge. It's a look so bad that I sometimes forget it existed, and it is our next addition into the scary and horrific category. Now we have Alexis Michelle, whose last name rhymes with hell. This look to me is only really memorable as a bad look for the sheer fact that not only did it cost her the challenge win, but it also resulted in one of my favorite funny untucked moments, which was Alexis blaming the rest of the queens in the cast for not telling her that she looked a mess when they were getting ready in the workroom. Nevertheless, it perfectly fits in the just plain ugly category. Up next is Amanda Tori Meeting's Bird Nest from season 16. Listen, when it comes to this showcase, while maybe it wasn't her best, at least you could tell the story that she was trying to convey with it. Plus, when it comes to Amanda, it was hard not to want to root for her to prove the haters wrong. Yet there is potential for this, so I'll go ahead and place her into the there was a concept category. Moving on in this list, we now have Selena Estides' street sign outfit from season 15. I feel like Selena is one of those queens that you can tell has such a big energy and excitement when it comes to drag, but the excitement can sometimes override her better judgment in terms of fashion. Like, it's hard not to look at this and think of how campy it is as an idea. Like, one thing you can't say about this is that it's boring, and it is pretty much iconic at this point. So let's give it the respect it deserves and place the street sign look into the golden boots category. Up next is Selena Estides' favorite ball from season 15. In this runway, the queens had to pick a theme from a previous ball on Drag Race and have a look made for it. Selena got the money ball, and for some reason, whenever I see this, my immediate thought is that it was from a sewing/design challenge. But no, this was one of the looks that she had gotten made and brought with her to the filming, which is sort of mind-boggling given that you can barely see a structure to it. And it just looks like something that would have ended up in the bottom 2 had it actually been the look she made this episode. I was debating whether to put this into the girl really category, but I'm just gonna put it in the plain ugly section. Now we're gonna do a quick lightning round before we finish off the list. Miss Cracker's Hairkini runway from season 10. This will go into the scary and horrific category. Scarlet Envy's entrance on season 11. This is just plain ugly. Mystique Summer's country runway from season 2. This is also just plain ugly. Estrella Extravaganza's design look for Drag Race Spain season 2. This to me was insane, so you'll have to go into the scary and horrific category. Trinity the Tuck season 9 promo look is also just plain ugly. Dita Ritz's entrance look on season 4. This, I think, a lot of us will never fully achieve the self-actualization that's needed to even grasp what's going on here. Yet one thing is true, and it's that no other queen in Herstory has walked into the workroom in a similar outfit as this. Regardless, I am gonna place this into the plain ugly category. Jay Jolie's favorite body part from season 5, at this point, based on all the other things we've seen in this video, this is pretty tame. So again, just plain ugly. Priyanka's design look from Canada's Drag Race season 1 will also be going straight into the ugly bin. Alright, so now we're at the 5 final additions to this list. First is Derek Barry's Tin Man from season 8. What I liked about Derek is that no matter what, she always served so much confidence whenever she'd walk the runway, regardless of what she was wearing. Yet, it's hard to deny that this would be the perfect look to get a redemption style comeback from. So I'm gonna say there was a concept to this look. Now we have Maddie Morphous's design look from season 14. While yes, she was going for a very specific type of character, we have to judge it based on how it looks without any context. And what that is pure nightmare fuel, becoming our next addition into the scary and horrific category. To continue on, we now have Trinity K. Bonet's construction worker from All Star 6. To have the nerve to go out on the runway wearing something that, based on an average viewer's perspective, is the opposite of what you'd expect from a Drag Race queen, let alone an all-star, it actually manages to do the unthinkable and has transcended into being a sort of really iconic campy moment. So for that, she will be going into the golden boots of the list. Then we have Joella's pink mattress glory hole from season 17. As you know, here at GreenGay Studios, we stand Joella, the Slajan diva of Los Angeles. So this is obviously a golden boot member. Our last look for this list is a Mandatory Meetings purple alien from season 16. When it comes to this one, it's hard for me to decide whether it deserves to be part of the golden boots category or the scary and horrific category, because there's elements to this that are campy and iconic, but there's also an essence to it that is scary and horrific. For the sake of time though, I'll say that this is a golden boot member. So there we have it, a ranking of the ugliest looks in the history of the franchise. Now listen, this video was made all in good fun. I don't consider myself a fashion expert, and neither should you. But it's mostly a way of finding comedy with some of the looks that were badly received by the audience and sort of appreciating them for the entertainment and laughs that came from it. That being said, I wanted to end the video with something fun. I want to know, in your opinion, which are the 5 worst looks in the history of the show? For me, there's 2 ways that you can approach this question. Either listing off the top 5 ugliest looks that are just bad, or listing off the top 5 ugliest looks that are actually kind of campy and fun. I'm gonna go with campy. So my top 5 would have to be, in no particular order, Dusty Ray Bottom's feathers, Lalaurie bag look, Kennedy Davenport's Death Becomes Her, Candy Muse's Alien Judy, and Joella's pink glory hole mattress. But which ones would have made your list? Let me know in the comments, and give this video a like to help me out with the algorithm, along with subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks again to Squarespace for supporting the channel. Click the link in the description to make your first website and earn 10% off your first order. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Sari Tish, Las Pothitas, Cool Gal Nan, Jet Sam Adams, Natasha De Leon. And in the Gay Squad, we have Lone Resident, Christine Gregory. And finally, in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch, But a Keek, Jack Beck, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Not an Omelet, But an Egg, Max Whale, Dea, Dea, and Niall O'Hearing. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description. I'll see you guys next time.